Welcome, everyone. This is Pine Leaf Needles, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Andang,
Hey everybody.
Terry Adwin,
Hi, hi.
Mathan,
Hey, y'all.
Aerithert,
Hello, everybody.
and Carvet.
At your service and your families.
And in addition to this, we have two special guests of the linguistic kind. So please welcome this week the Dwaro Scholar
Well met. Hello, hello.
and Dreaming Fifi.
Hi.
All right, and the Dwarf Scholar, as the name you can guess, is our specialist in the Dwarven languages, and Dreaming Fifi is our specialist in the Elven languages. So let's begin with what got you into Tolkien and into Lotro. We'll start with the dwarf, and then we'll go to the elf.
Yeah, that's a good order. That's very good. Well, I guess for me, it must have started when I was about 7 or 8. I think I remember that at that age, I was making up fantasy worlds, writing stories about strange beings, and inventing bizarre languages. So my uncle, who was a bit of a geek himself, rest his soul, he gave me a copy of The Hobbit. And I think I must have read that book about 10 times in the course of a month, if not more. And I was basically just, I was hooked. So that was it for me. And then, years went on, read more and more Tolkien books. And the fact that Tolkien's Middle-earth had such detailed and well-structured languages, well, it got me tied into Middle-earth, really. And it's basically spoken to my two great loves at the time and still, which is fantasy and languages. And before I knew it, I was just lost in this legendarium, I guess.
Are you a professional philologist?
No. It's this is all just a hobby that has gotten grossly out of hand. So, no. So so that's Tolkien, and then I guess what Lotro is concerned. Well, I didn't really get into Lotro straight away, to be honest. I knew about it, but yeah, maybe I was fearing some disappointment, I guess. But looking back at it, I think I should have gotten in the game a lot sooner. It was, and it still is a breathtaking world in my view. I think Turbine has done a great job, and it's something I still enjoy doing tremendously with a lot of friends that I've found along the way. Also in my kinship, Durin's folk, as you can imagine. So no, it's great fun.
What server are you on?
On the Laurelin server. So we're actually the guys responsible for Harnkegger. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right.
it's quite fun.
Now, is your entire... I take it then, because I noticed that you said Laurelin instead of the French server. Are you in a Flemish district?
Well, it's it's a bit of a border area, I would say. I'm in Brussels, so you can speak either Flemish or French or whatever you like, basically.
Okay. All right, because I was wondering why you were on an English server instead of a French server.
Well, I could, but I just think it's more authentic in English because
okay,
of
makes sense.
Tolkien, and that's it.
That makes sense. All right, especially someone who goes into the languages, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, dreaming.
Hello. My story is actually a lot like the Dwarf Scholars. Like I started with the Hobbit when I was very young. I think I was 5th or 6th grade when I started reading it. Like I was really big into fantasy, and I read everything that I could get my hands on. So, The Hobbit didn't really get me that much into it. But I read The Lord of the Rings when I was 12, 13 years old, and that got me hooked. Then a friend of mine told me about this website called fanfiction.net, where you could do fan fictions. and it was okay to write about other people's stories and worlds and characters and such. So I started writing fan fiction, and almost immediately, like the first thing I really got into was writing translations. Like my character met Galadriel at one point, so immediately I was like, I have to figure this out and figure out how Galadriel would talk. And that sort of just sent me down the rabbit hole. My my translations were pretty terrible at first. Like I didn't have anything to guide me. There weren't really Elvish lessons or textbooks, and the stuff that was online is really really difficult for people who aren't linguists or have no linguistic training to understand. So I did the best I could. And I managed to figure it out well enough that I got a pretty good grasp of everything. And my website started getting really, really popular. Like, I started out with a fanfiction.net profile, and I just posted lists of names that I came up with by mining the back of the Silmarillion. And eventually I decided to make my own website from that. And I very quickly crashed the available bandwidth. Then I moved to another free server, crashed the bandwidth again. This sort of went on for a few years until I ended up buying my own server space.
All right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What website are you at
This
now?
is realelvish.net.
Awesome.
We've been there for 7 years or so. I'm not quite certain how long, but it's been a while.
All right then. Then let's go on and ask about LOTRO plugins. What is this all about?
Well, I've recently placed a plugin for LOTRO players on my blog, which is dwarvscholar.wordpress.com. So basically, what it does is it allows your average role-playing dwarf in LOTRO to speak Dwarvish, or well, Neo Kuzdul to be exact, by simply clicking a few buttons, really. So a very friendly hobbit, I must say this, by the name of Simbo is really the hero in this story because, well, first of all, I guess hobbits are frequently the hero in Tolkien's work, so I guess that worked out nicely. So, well, seriously though, he programmed it, so it's I just provided some feedback and translated about 700 lines or so, and that's you know, that ended
Nothing
up
special.
as no, well, you know, we do our best, and it ended up as yeah, a fun plugin, and we thought, you know, let's just put this out there for the dwarf role-playing community so that they can use it. Though, note, if they use it, it is a secret language, so make sure you only use it when there are other dwarf characters around. Can't stress this enough. No, seriously, because otherwise, you know, sticking with the lore.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but that's basically it. The feedback at this point has been very positive from the community, and yeah, we've been discussing with Dreaming Fifi as well of putting up an Elvish version of this. So yeah, we'll see where that goes, but yeah, it looks very positive at least.
Yep. And
But-
I already have a phrase book on my website, which handles 4 different Sindrian dialects, 3 different Quenya dialects, Adunaic, and a handful of Orcish curses, which totals to over 8,000 phrases. So it'll be pretty quick and easy to
Yep.
get these 2 things combined.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Now, I could see there, it looks like one of the reasons that they must keep it secret because it looks like it's got the language when you mix Looks like you have target gender. It looks like you have masculine, feminine, plural masculine, plural feminine, and mixed.
Yeah, well, it's maybe just a very brief word on how this is put together, because obviously Tolkien made about 4 pages worth of original Kuzdul. So to invent an entire language based on that, first of all, I'm not the one that only invented this. This is also largely the work of linguist David Salo, the person responsible for Neo Kuzdul heard in the movies. So basically, what I've done is I've taken that Tolkien base as my Bible, so to speak, and mixed that up with Semitic languages such as Hebrew and Arabic, because that's the same base that Kuzdul has. Then using the vocabulary already established by David Salo, plus also what you can find in LOTRO, because if you go through Khazad-dûm, you will find some place names. So I've tried to incorporate that. That wasn't always possible, though. I tried to incorporate that. So this is basically a mix-up and resulted in a dictionary with thousands of words and verbs and whatnot. So yeah, so that's the base behind it, I would say.
Awesome. Keyrex from the chat says he'd love to know how you became interested in respective languages that you know. Which I think Dreaming Fifi kind of talked about already, but feel free to rehash that, and we'll start with the Doro Scholar.
Well, I don't know. White dwarves, I think, well, let's face it, they rock. Let's just, get that out there. No, seriously, I've always found them very cool. So, but yeah, I've had a love for them. It's like asking why I love my mother, because yeah, they mean the world to me. It's the same. They're obviously not on that same level of adoration, of course, but yeah, there's always a big pull. I think it started when I first read The Hobbit, and there's this passage, I believe it's in chapter 3, A Short Rest, where the elves make fun of the dwarves, the tra-la-la-lolly fun. And as a kid, I just couldn't stand that kind of bullying. So I just automatically sided with the dwarves. And I think it just started from that moment on, and I think I founded my own Dwarven Appreciation Society that very moment. Yeah.
So really, the real reason was fighting oppression, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically that's it. Yeah, fight the power.
It's
Yeah,
very noble.
yeah, we go all the way. Yeah.
Yeah. My interest in Sindarin over Quenya really came about because, well, it was more of a pragmatic decision than an attraction sort of decision because, if you think there's just so much more that we know about Quenya. And if I had gotten into it for, I want to do these amazing translation sort of things. I want to translate like all of Shakespeare into Quenya or something. You could do that with Quenya. Especially with the new publication of some of Tolkien's notes. We got a really thorough picture of how Quenya verbs work. So like you can do some really amazing translations with Quenya. But everyone's writing fan fictions about the Third Age and the Fourth Age of Middle-earth. And the Elven lingua franca of Middle-earth is Sindarin and not Quenya. So I had to focus all of my energy on Sindarin for many years. And about 5 years ago, I got interested in Quenya and started doing more translating into Quenya. And there's a Facebook group called Quenya Chat. So if you know Quenya, you can chat with other people in Quenya there.
That's awesome, because I know a lot about learning a language is that you have to actually use it to remember
Yeah.
it. And so that's awesome that there's a group where people can go and chat about that type of thing. So that's very cool.
Yeah. There isn't one for Sindarin yet, mostly because Sindarin is nowhere near as concrete. The scholar mentioned Neokuzdul. Well, it's basically it's not quite to the same extent with Sindarin, but Tolkien wasn't as interested in Sindarin himself. We don't have near as much notes or descriptions of grammar. We have mostly vocabulary and some scattered translations that we have to mine for all they're worth for the grammar. So,
Were there significant grammatical differences?
between Quenya and Sindarin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sindarin is what's called an isolating language. It's much more close to a language like English than Quenya is. Quenya is an agglutinative language, which means it's made out of lots of little pieces glued together. So you can have really, really, really long words in Quenya.
Sort of
And
like German.
that word will be an entire sentence. Well, in Sindarin, you have lots of words
Okay.
for the sentence.
That makes sense.
All right. Now, I heard that you are adding an Elvish to the LOTRO plugin. Is anything else to say about that? Well,
It'll pretty much be the same thing. You know,
No,
there
basically,
there
it's
isn't really much to add to that. No.
okay.
sorry, it's going to be a copy, if you will, of the Neo Kuzlu one, the same structure, well, as much as possible, obviously, but the content will be in the Elvish languages. So that's the idea. So it's going to be a different plugin. It's not going to be an addition to the plugin itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
It'll be
to
pretty
make,
much the same thing, just
yeah, yeah,
not in the same plugin.
yeah,
From
exactly.
what I said, look,
Yeah.
dwarfish speak is secret. You don't want
Yeah.
them intermixing.
Exactly.
You've got a good point there. All right, then.
I
Let's
got-
then.
Can I ask one question? This is something I've always wondered, and I haven't really delved into it enough to figure it out myself. But the difference between Sindarin and Quenya, in the sense, is that who would speak which language, and at what point did Quenya then transition into Sindarin as the dominant Elven language?
Yeah, I can answer that. Well, the truth is, Quenya did not ever transition into Sindarin. They are separate branches from a same ancestor language. The ancestor language we call Common Eldarin, and that would be spoken at the shores of Cuivianen. Quenya is spoken by the Noldor and the Vanyar in Valinor, in Aman. And Sindarin is a language that grew in the peninsula of Beleriand before, Beleriand was destroyed. And it was spoken by the Sindar. And actually, the word Sindarin is a Quenya term because, the Silmarillion is history from the perspective of the Noldor. So, a lot of the terms and such are in Quenya. But the word for Sindarin in the language itself is Edelan. So, the people who speak Sindarin is pretty much all of the elves of Middle Earth because Elu Thingol banned the use of Quenya after he learned of the kinslaying that the Noldor perpetrated against the Tellarine elves of Alqualonde. So, people the elves who spoke Quenya were shunned, and they had to learn Sindarin in order to get along with the Sindar. So the elves in Middle Earth speak Sindarin. Also, the wood elves who met the Sindar were fleeing the destruction and the war and such. They also picked up Sindarin as their language because it was so cool and wow, these guys know so much and they're so amazing.
There you go.
All right. So, what about your websites? Anything to add about those?
over 20,000 names, over 8,000 phrases, and I have a textbook with an interactive class. And we run on a semester system. So you can sign up for classes or sign up for the senioring class, and it takes about 8 months to get through. But currently it's on hold because I just got a new job and I need to get used to working on my feet, and then I'll have time and energy for correcting people's homework.
Awesome. And just in case people forgot in like the last 5 minutes, can you mention your website again?
RealElvish.net.
Okay, everybody just stop listening to the podcast and go over there and learn some Elvish.
Well, unless you're in your car.
Unless you're in your car.
Yeah.
That's great. Dora Scholar, where can people find the plugin?
Well, they can find it on the blog, which is dwarvescholar.wordpress.com. On the blog itself, it's basically a place where I go to share my ideas on dwarves of Professor Tolkien. So not only on their language, but their culture, their history, their manners, or in some cases, lack of. Yeah, anyone with an interest in dwarves will hopefully find it an interesting read. In addition, you'll find quite a bit of Neo Kuzdul material there as well, and obviously including that new plugin which is there. And yeah, every now and then I even talk about the events in LOTRO that we organize on the Loreland server, or about the Rolling Kegs, the dwarf band that I'm a part of. So yeah, all of that is on there.
All right. Which reminds me, while we asked the Dwarven Scholar what his favorite server was, we did not ask Screaming Fifi.
That's because she doesn't play LOTRO.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry. I don't
Did
play
you say?
Lotro.
Did you say screaming Fifi? I swear I finally said screaming Fifi.
Actually, it's probably become an affricate. Probably turned the D into a J because that happens before R's in some dialects of English.
yeah.
Wow, she's
By the
even
way,
justifying.
say the word tree. Say the word tree.
But tree?
Yeah. Yeah. See, you did it again. You turned the T into a ch sound. Now, this is why people, this is a thing that's happening like all over the U.S. is that T's and D's before R's are becoming ch and j. So that's probably why you heard it as screaming Fifi, because it was a
Wow.
j.
Well, it's good to know that English is still evolving. I think that's excellent.
Yeah, that is cool. Bellucannon asks a very important question. And they say, can you guys speak some sentences in Elvish and Dwarvish? Because really that's what we guys want to hear. So
Which Elvish?
whatever you want to do, and whatever you want to say. Just
Well,
go for
since
it.
Quenya has been banned.
Well, Quenya isn't dead. It's still spoken
Only
in
by
Valinor.
single.
No, it's still spoken in Valinor. Valinor still
No,
exists.
I said banned. I mean,
Oh,
but we're
banned.
not in Valinor. We're human.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
We can't go there.
But only by single. Single was the only one that didn't like it.
So anyway, Elvish.
Elvish. Let's see. Do we want Galadriel's lament?
Yes.
Okay. Ai laurie lantalassi surinen, jeni unotime veramar aldaron, jeni velinte juldar vanier, mi ormare lisse miruvoreva, andule pella varto telomar. Nuluini jassentinti larieleni, o Mario aeretare lirinen. Si mani julmaninen quantuva? Ansi tintale varda oioloseo, Vefaniar mariat elentari ortane. Ar ilje tier undulave lumbule, ar sindanoriello caita mornie. Ifal malinar imbemet, ar hisie untupa calacirio miri oiale. Si vanvana romello vanoa, valimar. Namarie, Na hiruvalje valimar. Na elje hiruva. Na marje. The end.
Wow.
Wow.
That's awesome. Could you like say something in English and then translate what that would be in an Elvish dialect?
Something in English,
Yep.
like anything or
Anything like
just some
what we were
They're
doing
parameters.
taking the
before, like
hobbits to
tree and
Isengard.
stuff like that.
Oh,
Take the
uh,
whole Isengard.
okay.
Not that we're totally putting you on the spot or anything.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a good word that is different in various dialects. Okay. The word for um, the trees of Lothlorien, the Malorn.
Mhm.
Malorn would actually be a Western, like in the Third Age, Western Sindarin sound or a Doriathrian Sindarin sound. But for a more, like, an elf who came from southern Beleriand and then went into Mirkwood, there they would say it Malthorn instead
Okay.
because the LT, because it's made from the word malt and orn. Actually, oron, but the oron gets shortened into orn. So the T in the past would have become a LTH. So Malthorn. But then the LTH became a sh sound, a voiceless L. It's like the double L in Welsh. But then that sound became revoiced, and you get the double L. So Malorn. But in the southern dialect, you didn't see that. That change didn't happen. So Malthorn with no change. It also means that the past tense is often very different. Like word dangen, slain, would be dangen instead in southern Sindarin.
That's awesome.
LOTRO Players News has been incapacitated by Elvish.
All right. So what about something in Dwarvish?
Well, let me see here. Well, first of all, it's 3 a.m. here, so bear with me.
Try something simple like at your service.
Zaya Chanzu, but it would depend. If you're speaking to a male, it would be Zaya Chanzu. Otherwise, to a female, it would be Zaya Chanzi. And if it's to more than one, would be Zaya Chanzin or Zaya Chanzun. So it depends who you're speaking to. Or, well, let me see. Any saying? Maybe Migi Kutufun Suluna Inima Maikili Peletumunsu Hukulum which basically would mean rejoice not when an elf falls, but don't rush to pick him up either.
Remember that. Remember that.
Got that, Carp?
All right. That's
All right.
is that going to be your catchphrase now?
After both of these awesome, awesome, saying things in different languages, if we don't get a 5-star review next week, everybody, then I don't know what to think. Like this is, in my opinion, the best episode we've had because you guys are awesome, and you can tell that you guys have spent a ton of time on this, and really quite amazing and just fascinating to hear about these different languages, and even more amazing is that it all came from Tolkien, I think. So
Well, kind of.
kind of,
Kind
kind
of,
of.
The seed, at least.
But
yeah, the seed, yeah.
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
he at least planned out all these different languages,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just amazing that that is even possible. So very cool. All right. Unless you guys have anything else to add, I think we're good to go.
All right. Then let's hit.
Namarye.
Awesome.
All right. Let's head into the game news. And our story today is that the new server tech testing is to start in September. We had a little bit of a test with transfers at the end of the week, and then they're starting to get the server tech ready, so they're going to start testing that in September. Do you have a better link on the timeline?
Well, basically, well, I don't remember if you mentioned that it's going to be on Bulroar, where they're going to be testing the new server tech, which is LOTRO's test server. And so they'll be doing that sometime in early September, and they're going to do all sorts of testing. I remember when they were trying to test the servers back with Riders of Rohan, they had everyone on their war steeds going from city to city to see how the lag was. And then they'd have them like all spread out and then come back to one place, and so you see like 300 players all lagging to try to get ahead of each other out of this place. So I'm guessing that they're going to do a lot of lag tests like that, putting people in certain locations and seeing if the new servers can handle them. So that should be pretty interesting. Later in October to November is when they expect the full transfer over to the new hardware to take place on the actual live servers. And so obviously they say, that is going to change depending on how things go. And then going back a bit in mid-September to early October, they expect to open transfers off of the closing worlds to the remaining worlds, because right now you can just transfer between the current remaining worlds, and they're even turning that on and off depending on how things are going so that they can test, how certain things are working on their back end.
Right, and they don't want things going wrong during weekends.
Right, yes. And so, they're still doing a lot of testing on this tech, but also allowing people to transfer between the core 10 servers right now. And then, they'll start moving into more and more things as the year progresses. So, they seem to know what they're doing. It's just a matter of getting it done.
It's getting it done and making sure that nothing goes wrong so they could fix it quickly when they do detect something.
Exactly.
Right. And please, when they put a note on something, please don't forget what is said there. For example, people were saying, "Oh no, I don't see my server on the list for transferring." Yes, that's because they haven't opened it for the ones closing servers yet.
Right. Yeah, there's still going to be plenty. I mean, you have till the end of the year to transfer your character at least
I
off
have
of
a
those.
feeling it's going to be extended beyond that.
They
But
did say
yes.
later that they're probably going to be extending free transfers and they're looking into actually possibly they're going to have to build the tech for this obviously, but they're looking into allowing you to first of all transfer off of a closing world, and then if you don't like that server, you get another free transfer to another place
Right.
within a
One.
certain time frame.
No, actually, they're doing it one free instead of a certain time frame.
Yeah, but maybe.
We'll see what they decide in the
Yeah, I
end.
mean, they could say that they'll allow it, but then maybe in like 2 years from now they might decide, well, it's been
Yeah,
long
yeah,
enough.
enough is enough. Yes.
So I was leaving options for
Yeah.
them.
Okay, you got a good point there. All right then. Then let's see what's on sale this week. And I heard a rumor that this week they have a very classy sale.
Uh, yes, they do. This week's free sample August 28th through September 3rd, Rejuvenation Potion ×5. Use coupon code RJVN5 one time per account. And we have 25% off classes. The Bjorning class, the Runekeeper class, the Warden class, 25% off character slots, and 25% off Slayer Deed accelerators. So you can earn more Turbine points to buy more character slots. And then it's also Pine Leaf Weekend. It's plus 25% Skirmish Mark acquisition, August 28th through the 30th.
So it's not a meh.
No, it's a good sale.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
by the way, if it's not named the Pine Leaf Weekend, it is now named the Pine Leaf Weekend.
That's right. That's right.
Oh man, I just realized I logged into a character, clean up a whole bunch of slots to buy Slayer Deed accelerators, and I forgot to buy the Slayer Deed accelerators.
All right. Then let's head into the players' news. And who's sponsoring the players' news this week?
Well,
No
this
one.
week it's probably Tales of the Free Folk, which is going to be starting on September 12th, Pine Leaf.
Ooh.
Yes, we are actually starting.
What is that, Andang?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Trish. Or Maven. It is our pen and paper LOTRO RPG show. And so we're going to get even nerdier on another show if you guys want to come and listen and watch.
Yeah, we weren't getting nerdy enough here.
That's right. So
Right.
basically, we're going to be taking the world and characters of LOTRO and creating our own stories within this, basically within our own show. And we actually have Gray Master, who has been helping write a lot of this stuff, and I'm going to be the Game Master, which means that I'm actually writing a lot of the stuff as well, and will be hosting the show. Once again, it will start September 12th, and it will be recorded live right after LOTRO Players News every other week. And so if you're in the live chat on our Mixler page, we will post a link in there, and also it should show up if you're a subscriber to the Players Alliance YouTube channel. Because it is going to be a YouTube video show, and so some of us will be showing our faces, and some of us will have very interesting images of our characters that they're hiding behind. And so it should be a lot of fun. We are once again doing this every other week, which also means some changes for this show. On the weeks that we will be doing Tales of the Free Folk, we will actually have a shorter episode of LOTRO Players News. We're going to cut out the skirmish on those weeks, and we're also going to reduce the weekend game to just one item per person. That way we'll be able to get through this and actually do the show before it's everybody's bedtime, or before really late at night. And so we're cutting this show down a little bit, but we're getting a whole other show. So I think it's a pretty good trade-off. Let us know in emails what you guys think, but I think it should be pretty good. And so once again, that starts September 12th. Very excited.
Very well, then let's head into our players' news, and our first little bit is a poll, which is, how did you discover Tolkien?
Yes, that's me again.
Oh yes, it's you again.
So yes, we asked people how they discovered Tolkien, which is kind of topical tonight. 57%, which makes me happy, said the books.
Ooh.
That is good. Following close behind, I actually expected more people to be on the movies, actually. 29% said the movies. Other got 6%. It's the next highest, believe it or not. A friend was 4%. The games with 3%, which is about where I thought it would be, but still kind of surprising that that is your first introduction to Tolkien. A book report, which goes along with the books, at 2%. That was my personal one. I actually got into The Hobbit in 6th grade in a book report.
A book report?
Yeah, a book report.
Okay, because I usually consider it's the teachers who are reading the book reports.
Well, you have to read the book to write the book report, Pineleaf.
Well, yes. But, all right, because then if you had to read the book first, then you would have discovered it with the books.
Well, see, it happened with Andang,
Right,
so that's
but-
why he remembered. That's why he thought to put it in this.
Well,
If
the thing
it was-
is,
if it
there was
one
a
of us,
required-
we wouldn't have even thought to put it in.
Right. Well, I mean, there was a required book list, and I chose randomly The
Ah.
Hobbit, and that's how I got into The Hobbit.
So you didn't get to pick your book. Got it.
Well, there was a list, but I got to pick from the list, and that's how I got into
Yeah.
Tolkien.
I want to know what
So-
other is. What's other?
Well,
What would
there
be
are
other?
quite a few. Nobody picked a musical or a podcast, so we have not introduced anyone to Tolkien yet. Let's see. People said their uncle, filing cabinets for punishment. That's Terry Adwin. And then,
Is that other? That was books, right?
No, it was books.
Okay.
and then some people said that their parents read them aloud to them, and so there's various ways.
All right, then. Yeah, well, I can imagine, because the one time I saw a play based on The Hobbit, it had to be the worst dramatic presentation I'd ever seen in my life. So,
So you didn't see the Lord of the Rings awesome epic that was breaking play record budgets and all sorts of other stuff?
no, I saw one from a local high school that apparently does not have the best drama department in our county because
Wow. Fighting words coming out of Pine Leaf. Now people just have to find out what county you're in. Don't say it on.
All right, let's head on into the LOTRO video highlights. The A team.
Me again. It's almost like I didn't set up the show notes this week.
That's because you didn't.
That's because I didn't. All right, yes. This is possibly my favorite parody video out of all the LOTRO video highlights I've done so far. Because they get the character costumes on so well. I mean, they are spot on. And it's just amazing. And then the way they do like fellowship maneuvers and all sorts of other stuff, and it's put to the A-Team tune, and it's great. It feels like it really does feel like a LOTRO version of the A-Team. I really do love this video. So if you haven't seen it and you're even half familiar with the A-Team, check it out. It's pretty funny and awesome.
All right. And Nim posted an article on the benefits of a kinship.
That's right, Pine Leaf. This is actually a new writer.
Ooh.
Yes, and this has been one of our more popular posts this week as well. So awesome that our new writer is already doing well. And basically, it just goes through talking about various benefits that they've found going through their own experiences with kinships. And so I thought it was pretty good, and it's a normal length article, so you can get through it pretty quick. So recommend checking out Benefits of a Kinship.
All right. And Lily Kate posted her latest episode of Small LOTRO Adventures, where they continue to go about with Bingo Boffin and attempting to bring him through his adventures, so I can say it without spoilers.
All right, I've talked enough, so somebody else better talk about
Yes,
this
all
one.
right. Anyone else have to say, or?
Go for it, Pine Leaf.
All right, well, Lily Kate and her daughter went around and to the various points on with Bingo Boffin is doing, and let's just say it involved a few first cousins once removed.
That is a good synopsis.
Yeah, that's a good synopsis, yes.
I remember going through these on my stream and having to delve into a quick genealogy lesson on the difference between first cousins once removed and second cousins. I felt very much like a hobbit.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun saying once removed over and over again, getting more and more excited every time. I had a lot of fun with that.
No, I sometimes could imagine Arwen, and she's marrying her, let's see, first cousin about, what, 37 times removed?
And thousands of years, yeah.
All right. And next we have the Amar Khalid. And this is an article by Tim.
It's a new Tim story.
Say that again?
It's a new Tim Hedden story.
Yeah, new Tim Hedden story.
So
And
for
Family Line, the prequel?
The prequel?
Majorly the prequel, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Ah, yes. And which reminds me, I need to get around to finishing up the Family Line. Oh, yes. All right, let's get into the House of Bjorn, Chapter 8, and they are heading south.
Hang on, Pine Leaf. Dreaming Fifi has a correct pronunciation of that last article, so go for it.
She does. Sorry about that.
It's Amar Khalad.
Awesome.
All of us are just like nodding our heads in front of our computers, like,
She could say anything, and we'd just be like, "Yeah, that's Elvish. Yep."
Yep.
Yep, that's the way it
Basically,
pronounces.
all of those vowels should sound the same, roughly. So
Okay.
Amar Khalad.
Okay. Cool.
Now can we head south?
Yes, Pine Leaf.
Go ahead.
Right, with the House of Bjorn, Chapter 8. And
Journey South.
yes, Journey South. And anyone have any comments on this?
Well, if they're journeying south, they're finally out of his house.
Well, yes, we got a point to that. Well, I don't think they meant house. I've always thought that the name.
It does,
House of
Pine Leaf. It was a joke.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally didn't get to read this one this week. I just caught up on 7 last week, and I was like, this is great. I missed it. Again.
Yes. And I was spending all of my week doing the finish ups to getting out the Pine Leaf Pictorial Primer to Thievery and Mischief out in time for this week, and I just barely made it, so I was so busy running those I didn't have a chance to read any. Running a lot of skirmishes for those. But we do have a new skirmish guide, Thievery and Mischief. So anything that you want to know about that skirmish and was afraid to ask.
Literally anything you want to know. Like, there's every number you could ever desire.
I know. Your primers are amazing. They really are.
Any more saucy comments like there's indistinguishable usefulness of this particular NPC? I'll have to read through it and find out. Those signature Pine Leaf lines, they're just so fun.
They are.
Well, let's
I'm
see.
the foggiest.
I think most of my weird lines have to do with the boss fight and with a couple of the encounters. We'll see if any of them qualify to make you laugh.
That makes now don't tell anybody. We have to go read it to find out.
Right.
I'll read it this week and report back. I'll have the primer to the pictorial primer to skirmishing.
There you go.
The Carvet's notes version.
Bill Canyon from the chat says, "Did we just break Pine Leaf?" And yes, we did.
A little bit of pine lag there.
Pine lag.
So it'd be like Carvet's compilation of Pine Leaf's primers.
Ooh. Okay, let's see if Pine Leaf can read poems now.
That's right.
I like how Carve just made the transition. Like, you know that we're really drawing out something when Carve is the one that moves us
Yes.
on.
I know, really.
All right. Yes. My poem for this week, we take a little interlude from our questing in Angmar because let's face it,
Angmar.
too much time in Angmar
Angmar.
to pull anyone down.
It's
So I
okay. You
thought
just
I'd
had to
use
say
this-
Angmar, Pine Leaf. We understand.
You're saying?
Angmar. It's depressing. So we're going to liven the spirits with a rousing tale of poetry from...
The Shire.
Yes, do it.
Yay!
Yes.
Bring it.
Trouble takes our Tuckborough folk as brigands bring a blight of woe. We gore the goblins and gut the wolves to save the Shire with spear of oak. Trouble tears our Tuckborough home as hobbits hide in holes so deep. We fight our foes to free the Shire of raging roughs that wreck our land. Trouble tests our Tuckborough heart to weather woes that wasters bring, to shed the Shire of Sharky's men, and bring us back to bliss and peace.
That's awesome.
Hey, you didn't even mention the bog lurker.
I was just thinking, it's kind of a little bait and switch there. Of course, like, we're leaving Agmar to the sunny Shire. We gore goblins and gut the wolves. What? Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't know if it came up on the mic, but I was actually snapping my fingers like at
Yeah, I
a
was doing-
poetry.
I heard it.
reading.
I
Yeah.
heard it. Yes.
Yeah, man, that's deep, man.
All right. Vivian, what's the new player question this week?
Well, in honor of Mark Acquisition, better known as Pine Leaf Weekend, I thought I'd ask this question. Is Mark Accumulation the only benefit of doing skirmishes? For what other reasons would I do a skirmish?
Turbo
To kill
XP.
lots of things and a
Kill
satisfying
Slayer deeds.
Catharsis.
Yes.
That's right. We do get Slayer Deed credit,
Yes,
right,
you
when
can
we're
do
inside
Slayer
a skirmish.
D credit. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
XP, obviously, is another,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Can
XP.
be. Okay.
Also,
Is there other?
sometimes you get nice drops, especially in like the scraid, like the skirmish raids. I think tier 2 and up has a chance of dropping crystals
Oh wow.
of different stuff for your legendary items, and
Well, what do you mean
for
by
the fun
crystal?
of it.
Because I've seen things like crystals and stuff like that I've
Scarlet
seen
Crystal.
even in solo skirmishes.
Yeah, I think it's if it's tier 3, they'll drop.
No, I've seen them in tier 1.
Really?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
actually,
the
I did
odds of them
last week.
dropping actually increase the more
Yeah, the
difficult
odds
Yep.
you
Yeah,
get.
that's probably
increase,
true.
but
But
I
Yeah.
have
they are
Yeesh.
for drops.
but
I've never even heard.
most of my Starlight
Well,
crystals have come from tier 1 solo skirmishes.
Jeez.
It's
let's
okay,
just
Arthur.
compare the
That's a normal
frequency of.
reaction to Pine Leaf talking about skirmishes.
Yeah, well, let's just think about the frequency of pine leaf skirmishing, okay?
Yeah.
There's a much greater chance of something like a crystal dropping when you run, say, 100 skirmishes a day versus like 100 skirmishes a month, like the rest of the population.
And when
So,
you're soloing a
you know,
too.
I think
Yes.
the only time I've had a Starlit Crystal drop in a skirmish was when like was a storm on Methedras, and I was lagging so bad. It was with a group, and I was lagging so bad that everyone had already rolled, and somebody had gotten the crystal before while the boss was still at 200,000 morale on my screen. So
oh man.
Well, that wouldn't
that's
have been
my
a skirmish.
experience of
That would have
crystals
been
and
a
skirmishes.
no. That would have been a raid because skirmish loot is predefined by the system, and it's not something you roll on.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
it
it was
is
a
if it's
raid.
in the final chess in the
Yeah.
boss. It's rolled for the boss.
Yep.
Hmm.
When
Anywhere
you loot the body, you
else,
mean?
it's determined by the system.
Yeah, it was the chest at the end.
Oh, it's just at the end.
So
Now,
the correct
also,
answer,
sorry.
the correct answer to your first question is no. Just so you know.
Okay. Now,
That
so
first
as far as
question's-
the loot, besides XP, besides gold and silver, because there's bounties, right, that we get, and
Right.
besides marks, there's also loot. There's stuff that drops, right, like weapons and armor and stuff
No.
like that.
You
No.
get relics.
Relics.
Little bits of legendary item stuff. The armor and stuff you're thinking of comes from the scaled instances.
Oh, I
Yep.
got it. Okay.
But
The
you
relics
can
are-
get armor from your marks at the camps.
Yes,
Right.
You can trade your marks for other things.
Sure. But
Yeah.
you don't get them in game. You get just coin of some kind, basically.
Some kind of currency usually is what you get from doing skirms.
Right.
Okay. Cool. All right. Move us along, Pine Leaf.
All right, then let's head into our weekend Lotro. And Andang, what did you do this week?
Yes, well, I gathered some of Bingo's first cousins, once removed. And that's it.
Right.
What'd
Did you
you
also
do,
get a
Arthur?
sheep while you were doing it?
Did I get what?
Did you get a sheep after doing that?
No, I have not been to the vendor yet at all, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to do that, though.
That's a bad move on your part, ending.
Arathert, what did you do?
I had somewhat of a competition with myself in Moria. I had my minstrel in there for my Wednesday stuff, and then the next day, or a couple days later, my girlfriend and I were in there in Moria as well. So I'm barely keeping my hunter ahead of my minstrel, which is challenging because my minstrel's just blowing through, and my hunter's doing everything we possibly can in there that we can find. So yay, waterworks.
All right, Maven.
Well, as long as you don't mind my barking dog in the background, I was a very quiet week for me this week, actually. The highlight of my week was kicking off Pine Leaf Weekend with Pineclaw and Terry on Arkenstone.
That's
In other
pretty
words, we had
amazing that you kicked it off
skirmishes
with Pine Leaf.
Yeah, we ran. I know. I'm not bragging or anything, but
Pine Leaf Weekend with Pine Leaf.
I'm
That's
not name dropping or anything. Me and Pine Leaf were like that. Yeah.
So you're palling around with Pine Leaf then.
And it was Pine Leaf's choice. So like they
Yeah.
actually started. I was late coming in, but they were doing it on Pine Leaf's choice. So yeah, so it was pretty.
Well-
But no, only tier 1. Stayed at tier 1. You know.
Well, I mean, proximity-wise, Maven, you've actually been pretty close in and out of game to Pine Leaf. So, I mean,
That's true.
really
That's
you
true.
are pretty close to him.
That's true. Yeah, we're like that. Yeah. You know, I'm crossing my fingers. We're like that. Anyway.
All right.
So.
Terry?
Quiet week for me too, but I did take the opportunity to move a couple of characters from Glen to Arkenstone and got them in the Academy kinship while the server transfers were open. Trying to do some character shuffling because I've got characters that are going to be coming off of Closing World, so I'm trying to like redistribute stuff. So that was my week.
All right. Doing shuffling, the old character shuffle.
Character shuffle.
Yeah, all right. Now, last night we were doing a episode of LOTRO Academy, and it was decided that I was going to try out the Banner Guard again. So I switched out my archer on my main warden and swapped in a Banner Guard. And I ran a couple of skirmishes there. Then later on, I decided I was going to run Attack at Dawn so I could start collecting data for the next skirmish guide that I'll be doing. And I forgot that I had a Banner Guard with me, and I was thinking I had an archer. So I come in there, I summoned my archer. Of course, I get this Banner Guard, and my Banner Guard pops up right in the middle of all the mobs. It's like, how am I going to collect data if I got my skirmish soldier attacking the mobs before I know what's going on? So that was saying, like, yeah, know what soldier you've got before summoning them. I went and decided, okay, I'm collecting data. I went back to an archer for that one. I'm going to use the different warden for the Banner Guard so that I don't have to worry about that while I'm collecting data. So, Carv, what were you up to?
Well, this week was another adventures with the Carvelets. This week I was betrayed and beaten by my Carvelet kindred.
What?
And what that means is that I was trying to run one of those fast skirmishes for XP, and as I come across the courtyard in Tuckborough, I'm sitting there trying my hardest on my burglar not to die, and my eldest Carvelet is sitting next to me going, "Kitten, kitten," and driving me bonkers, so I died. and then later on that week, I was playing with my youngest Carvelet, who decides, in all of her 8-year-old wisdom, to start hitting all the different things you can hit when you right-click and select on somebody, including spar. So I'm like, all right, what the heck? Guard versus a blue guard versus a burglar. So I'm like, okay, go ahead, take some swings at me. And I was having a lot of fun just watching her tick off little 8-9 points of damage. Then all of a sudden she stuns me, and then she starts hitting crits. And the next thing I know, I'm at half morale, and I'm like, oh, I better start fighting back with my wiffle ball bat because I'm in blue line guard. And then she magically hit the touch and go skill, which means she gets like plus 50 evade, so I can't hit her. And in short, she beat me up. I got
That's
beaten
awesome.
up by an 8-year-old girl in the Chetwood. It was a training exercise.
On your class that you
On
know
my
how to
class,
play.
yes. On my class, yes. Basically, it was a training exercise. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Before we go on, the Doro Scholar, did you do anything interesting in Lotro in the last month or so?
Well, it's been a pretty busy time, I would say. We've been rehearsing, if that's the word you can call it, for the Hardenkegger games that start on Monday. So there's lots that needs to be done. There's like 15 events in a week, and everybody's in a panic right now. So yeah, so we're making sure that's all straightened out. And then there's also a rehearsal for our music band, the Rolling Kegs, because we're doing the opening ceremony music. So, and obviously the plug-in testing has kept me quite busy as well. So yeah, it was a pretty busy time in Lotro.
Awesome. Yeah, I bet that kept you very busy.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
All right. We currently have 17 supporters on Patreon, and if you would like to join this illustrious raid of players and help support Lotro players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you will find rewards, including a mention on the podcast of your choice, or even be a guest host for an episode of Lotro Players News. And how far are we from the next goal?
We are $19 away from a GDO 1-year VIP code giveaway. And so, Pineleaf, it would be awesome if we were $18 away with 18 patrons. I'm just saying, next week, it would be great if we got, another dollar supporter for our Patreon. After that, there is the Lotro 1-year VIP code giveaway, which is a little bit further down the line, but getting close to both of them.
All right, we have a pair of reviews from iTunes, and the first of these comes from Wisfoot. And let's see, Terry, could you please read that?
Certainly. Wisfoot left a 4-star review on iTunes. Priority number 1, control thyself. As suggested by someone on your team, I find that I have the time to write a short review of your show while sitting and waiting for the tow trucks to arrive to one of the worst multi-car incidents in my area. There I was, just driving down the road, listening to episode 111, when Pineleaf made that statement. I just couldn't help myself. I turned my head so hard toward my MP3 player that I don't know if my whiplash is from the resulting accident or that double take. Pineleaf really must control himself in the future. Refer to episode 111.
That they
I've
are
been
joking
playing-
for the record.
Yeah, they are joking, but that's hilarious.
We hope.
I've been playing LOTRO now for several years, mostly solo or with 1 or 2 friends on occasion, and found your show about a year ago. I listen to your show via podcast, often a week or 2 after it's posted, and enjoy it very much. To be honest, although I do enjoy the camaraderie and bantering between hosts, I feel like you could spend a lot less time on the what happened last week section. For some of you with many characters on multiple servers, it can get a bit too lengthy. And if you continue that segment, you could limit the sharing to lessons learned or teachable moments that can be helpful to everyone.
Well, guess what? I know I'm interrupting you a second time, Terry.
Yeah, go
but
ahead.
We are lowering that down, as we said earlier in the show, every other week. So, we're listening to that feedback. Plus, we're starting a new show. So, awesome stuff.
Although I do like the idea of trying to make the stories, apropos to those in game.
Yeah.
Or they're just thinking hilarious.
Teachable moments. Like don't idle your lore master in Grotham and the Uttenmoors.
And
Yeah,
make sure if you're
exactly.
Pineleaf to actually skirmish responsibly and not kill off the Hobbit companions that you
That
have in the
too.
skirmish.
Or if you're a burglar and you're dueling, go ahead and use touch and go, because then they can't hit you.
A couple suggestions, requests for shows in the future. Number 1, talk about the new servers. What does it mean to be a role-playing server or whatever other server types there are? Do we want to answer that?
Yeah. So basically, a role-playing server is either enforced or encouraged. An enforced one means that you do have to try to stay in character for certain things in the chat. So basically, you can't be talking about how awesome the chili was last night. You have to be talking about things that are going on in game with your character. Roleplay encouraged is basically just allowing role players to be on the server and encourage them to be role playing, but they can still on the other servers you don't have to do it at all, and on Landerville, which is the roleplay encouraged one, you don't have to do it at all. And Laurelin is the enforced server, and Landerville is the encouraged.
There's also a German enforced server.
But just
Okay.
because it's roleplay enforced doesn't mean you have to roleplay. You just
Yeah,
have
you
to
don't-
basically not be a jerk to those who are roleplaying.
Right.
Right, and you have to have a name that is
Yeah.
that could at least be reasonable in the
Yeah. Brannick in the
in the
chat
lore.
says, "Punch you in the face 420 is not a good name to have."
is not a good name. Yes.
Yeah.
The names that can get reported are, let's say, a lot larger set can be reported in
Right.
areas. All right,
Okay.
continue.
And which ones are which? Basically, why would I choose one server over another?
It's really more where your friends are.
Yeah. it's
Or
where your
if you're
friends are.
looking for a certain kinship, or a certain type of overall server playstyle. For example, Brandywine is typically thought of as the PvP server and the raiding server, whereas Landerville is more the music and stuff like that. Same thing with Laurelin. And so it's really just kind of what you're wanting to get into.
In all honesty, what you can do is it's very easy to roll up a character, get it into the intro, and then talk to people in world chat.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah,
be
because
like,
you can
hey,
access
what's...
world chat from the starter instance. You can
Yeah.
access world chat from the tutorial. So you
Just
don't actually ever have to do anything. Just roll the character and log in. Chat.
right, and you can
folks.
kind of get a good feel for what's going on, for what kind of things that particular server does, the particular culture and feel of it, just from doing that. Another thing you can do if you feel so inclined, is to go onto the forums, forums.lotro.com, and each forum has its own like each server has its own sub forum, and you can go in there and kind of also get an idea of what kind of events this server has, if that's your thing. Do they have regular raiding groups? A lot of kinships will advertise on the forums, and you can get in touch with them and look at their websites and see what they're doing. So there's a lot of different things you can do that don't involve rolling a class, investing a lot of time and stuff like that. You can figure out pretty quickly like the feel of a server and if it's a server that you want to join pretty
Well,
quickly without too much bother.
sometimes, though, what's happening at one moment might not be what's happening at another moment because some
Right.
people have had given different reports because I'm in a kinship alliance that is, of course, discussing where they are going to move the alliance to. And different people have different reports on what the server is like because the time they happen to be listening to World Chat, there were different reactions there.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, continue.
Number 2. Please share your experience with migrating characters / kinships as soon as they start. What to watch out for, what to do first or last, and or general tip suggestions. As far as migrating kinships, they've already posted on the forums the order in which kinships should migrate, but I'll go over it briefly. It's you want your kinship leader to transfer first, and before that happens, any bound items that are in the kinship house should be returned to sender because otherwise they'll get lost. It's actually a good idea to take off anything that's on hooks in the kinship house because it's, as far as they know, stuff has been transferring over fine if it's in the housing chest and sort of okay on hooks, but the stuff on hooks isn't guaranteed to transfer as well as stuff that's in a chest somewhere. So step 1 would be for the kinship leader to transfer because they're going to get a document in game. It's a voucher of some sort in game that actually allows them to reform the kinship with all of everybody's information. So if you're already part of the kinship, then when everybody else follows later, your information is already stored on the new server. And
Also,
then, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, general transfer information on Reddit, reddit.com, I think /r/LOTRO. Somebody compiled a really detailed step-by-step guide for if you want to just migrate your character and you're not worried about a kinship, but like it's everything you need to know in the order you need to know how to do it.
Yeah, and as far as sharing experiences, I'm sure that Terry and Pineleaf are going to have a lot of experiences with all their characters, and they're going to be experts on the transfer system in a bit. One other quick thing I want to mention is that if you guys have feedback on the show or you want to hear us talk about certain things, for example, even things we've already talked about, mention it and mention an email, send it into podcast@lotroplayers.com, and we're happy to cover that kind of stuff. Just write in and mention it.
Yep. So anyway, kinship leaders, then kinship officers, and then everybody else in the kinship is how you should transfer, recommended. And then there's plenty of other general tips out there. There's links on the forums, as Eric suggested. There's the information on Reddit. I've already done some transferring because I don't have characters in kinships that I'm too worried about.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I've transferred only one character so far.
yeah, and I didn't have any trouble. So.
Right, yeah, no trouble at all. But please don't do what one person, I read in the forums that one person who was a kin leader transferred his character so he could change his name and then transferred back to his original server.
Oh no.
I mean, you're asking for trouble there.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're planning on doing that, then like temporarily give kinship leadership to an alt or something.
Yeah.
Because
right. Yeah, because
it's gonna work fine one way. It's not necessarily guaranteed to work fine going back.
Right.
He couldn't, because now apparently he can't get his old kinship name back or something like that, and the rest of the officers are not amused.
I can imagine that that's not going over very well. So number 3 is how to deal with roving threats with a less than optimal sized group. I feel smaller groups are likely to be the norm from my experience. Tip 1,
Run.
run.
We're probably unanimous on that one. Just run.
Well, what class
One
are you?
stone giant in the Misty Mountains.
Actually, I
Well,
stood and watched them
I,
for a
I
long time.
usually run into roving threats when I'm not even at level, like level 40 running into to run away.
Yeah. If you're under level, as opposed to just less than optimized size groups, and yeah, definitely run away if you're nowhere near the right level.
Well, a lot of it too, as far as less than optimal size group, it's a two-part thing. One would be to know what you're about to fight. Each one of the roving threats is slightly different. Some of them have specific things you need to watch out for. So alt tab out, look it up on the wiki and find out what exactly it is that they do. That'd be the
But
first thing to do if you want to go fight a roving threat with a group that's too small to just
But
run
make
up,
sure
smack
you're
it
not
down.
in the roving threats path
when
when
you alt tab.
When you alt tab out, make sure you're safe distance away.
like go back to town because those roving. The great thing about roving threats is that they move, but they don't move a whole lot within that specific area, so they're gonna kind of back and forth so get a general location, go back to where it's safe, and then go look it up and then go fight it.
They do like the angry teenager stalk.
Yeah, and you can always ask for help in world chat. There's people that'll show up.
That
They
being
will.
that being said, if you do want to go out and fight it with a less than optimal size group, a lot of them are very possible to do that with. Um, it's just a matter of, again, like first you got to know what the mob can do, what the roving threat can do, so you find out what it can do, unless you're familiar with it already, and then you know what it's capable of, and then to kind of know what you and your group are capable of. If it's a small group that you run with consistently, you know what people can do, and you know how to deal with things when things go south. But it can take a few tries for some, for some things. Mixing it up, trying different approaches. If you just try the same thing over and over again, and then a couple times in, we're like, nope, it's impossible. Like, no, not at all. It's some of these roving threats that are super crazy and large groups can't deal with. I know of duos that have taken it down because they understood the mechanics of it. So a lot of it's like just knowing the battle and
It's like
practicing
knowing
and trying
skirmish
different.
lieutenants, right? I mean, it's the same
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like doing skirmish lieutenants or raid
Yeah,
raid
Raid
fights.
mechanics, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
It's
like
the same as
anything
anything.
else, basically.
Trying it, trying different approaches until you find what works with the group you've got, and knowing the fight.
Well,
All right.
wise words, Erithert.
Wise
Thank you,
words.
thank
Okay,
you.
so again, thanks very much for your show and your team of hosts. You do a great job. So thank you, Wisford. I hope we gave you at least some stuff to think about.
Yeah,
Very well.
and thank you for writing possibly our first review with questions in it. That was great.
Although I don't know that he was intending on us to answer them all right now.
No, he put
I
them
know.
as suggestions for future shows. Yes.
Yeah.
So
We
it
just got
might,
it right out of the way. We just
But
got it
man,
out.
be
we're
clear
we're on
questions
point.
next week.
We get things done
right.
here. That's
all right. And Freightless Fair Fodder left a 5-star review on iTunes. Certified Pie Inspector. As a certified pie inspector, I'm trained to recognize fresh and tasty treats. I am pleased to report that the LPN podcast is a consistent delight. The hosts are well informed and funny. I've been listening live for about 2 years now, but it's nice to get a couple of slices to go here too.
Yeah.
And we have an email. All right. And we have an email from Belcalnion. And sweet lad, everyone. I thought I'd share a short poem I wrote a couple of years ago. I don't claim to know anything about poetry, and I can't hold a candle to the magnificent pine leaf, but I wrote one, and it mostly rhymes. So please be kind. Keep up the good work. I love the show. Well, don't worry. Since I've been writing alliterative verse, it mostly doesn't rhyme.
that was pretty meta. Magnificent Pine Leaf reading the email directed at him.
I know. I noticed that. I noticed you didn't give it to somebody else to read. I was noticing that.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm supposed to be reading the poem.
Okay. Okay, finally. I'll buy
Yes.
that.
All right. The Calnian of
Good enough, say.
Quindinose. The spell is upon me. My days are cloudy, I walk in a mist. The spell is upon me. I long for light never shown, from trees never grown. I yearn for music never played, on instruments never made. It's a torment that I love. The spell is upon me. I want to escape to a land never wrought and see things never sought. I want to meet people never born and hold Bormir's split horn. Things of this world drain me. The spell is upon me. I long for this distant land to walk and hold my true love's hand. I wish to hear words never said and see graves of those long since dead. This world pales. The spell is upon me. I crave knowledge never taught, and to see fell beasts never caught, to sail under a flag never flown, and feel wind never blown. Hunger fills me. The spell is upon me. To drink water never flowed, and look upon the moon that has never glowed, to see stars glitter bright, and see his great eagles take flight. My mind is ever bent to the land of the elves. The spell is upon me.
Awesome.
Nice pacing at the end there, Pine Leaf.
Yeah.
Whew.
Dreaming
Uh,
Fifi, how do we say that word?
Well, first, did I have it spelled right there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
Okay, it's Quendi Nose.
Quindi no
Wendy
se.
knows.
Cool.
All right. If you would like to contact us, send a poem or some other letter, you could email it to podcast@lotroplayers.com. And you could also follow us at Twitter, the Players Alliance at Players Ally, Lotro Players at Lotro Players, Andang at PVMP_Andang, Arathert at Arathert, Carvet at Carvet LP, Lily Kate at Lily Kate Buggins, Maven at Tolkien Maven, Terry Adwin at Terry Adwin, and Pineleaf at Pineleaf Needles. And you could also follow our guest, the Dwarven Scholar, at K Strongbeard, and you could follow Dreaming Fifi on Facebook. I guess at Dreaming Fifi. The Players Alliance has 3 live shows every single week. On Mondays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News. Next Thursday, not this Thursday, we'll be skipping a week on the Guild Wars Players News. Next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, the change in time, Guild Wars Players News with new hosts. We'll be beginning with Mel and Andrew. And if you wish to know who Mel and Andrew are, then tune in next Thursday at 9 p.m. And on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Lotro Players News. You can join us for our live shows at lotroplayers.com/live. And starting on September 12th, every other Saturday night, right after Lotro Players News, we have Tales of the Free Folk. Check into Lotro Players News chat for a live video link. And thank you everyone for listening. This is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.